Okay. Hello world, my name is Nick and today my guest is the one and only creator of Atlans and the group Silly Linguistics, Rolf Weimar. We know that Atlans is a conlang, but can you tell our viewers what type of conlang is it exactly? Is it like a priori or a posteriori one? And what is it influenced from?
It's a posteriori,
Hmm.
which means it's based on an existing natural language. It's based on German. I've always been interested in the variation between different languages. And Dutch is basically a simplified version Afrikaans is a simplified version of Dutch. So I was thinking basically to make a simplified version of German. So Atlans takes German and changes pronunciation and changes a lot of the grammar, but it's heavily influenced by German. But it's also got influences from other languages.
Yeah, just like Afrikaans is a simplified version of Dutch.
Yes, yes. So I always wondered what a simplified German would look like. So that's why I made it.
Oh, that's pretty cool. Great. So let's continue on with the history of your project. Can you pinpoint the exact moment when you had the idea of making a conlang and with it the whole universe that came with it?
Yes, yes. It's quite interesting. Most people say, I've been working on it for a couple of years. I know the exact moment because there was this guy that came on Omnigloss Fan Club, which is a popular language-based group on Facebook. And he came on there and he was saying, "Look at these words and look at these words. All these words come from this language." And then we were like, no, just because they're related, and he wasn't deterred. He wanted to prove that his language was the world's first language. And have you ever heard the term Poe's law?
The term what?
The term Poe's law, it means that you can never make something ridiculous enough that's not people have to realize that it's a joke, So if I said something like Belgian, which isn't even a language, then someone might be confused. It's like, is Belgian a language, Or if I said Japanese or whatever. So I thought, let's really make this clear. I'm making a joke. So I said, no.
Yeah.
Atlantean is the mother language, and people thought that was funny because that has to be a joke. And then that was kind of the birth of this idea, and then it grew from there.
And I also remember that there were some people who actually believed that Atlans is a real language at some point.
Well, because it's so heavily influenced by natural languages, and I guess I have a knack of mixing languages together. Whenever I post in it, Dutch and German people are like, I can understand this, but like, what is it? Is this like Middle Dutch, or is this like some weird dialect of German I've never heard?
Remarkable. So, what's the actual purpose of Atlans? I mean, what do you hope and expect of people who are willing to and decide to learn it?
Um, the real answer for that is I just like mixing with languages, and I especially like mixing natural languages together. And so Atlans is really just my adventure into Germanic languages and see how much I can mix together. And despite the fact that it's so mixed, people say it has a real natural feel to it, which I suppose is an achievement.
Mm, great. So, I'm sure that your language will have a lot of success in the near future because it's just starting to get successful. So let's
Yeah.
talk about the Atlantean world. So I heard that the Atlanteans live on the so-called Erd. So does that have anything to do with the legend of Atlantis here on Earth, or
Well, oh,
how did you choose the name Atlans? You know.
It's funny. All of this happened quite naturally. So I could have picked in any you know a mystical place.
Mm-hmm.
It just Atlantis came to mind. And then when I was reading further about it, I realized that there was a lot of connections. Like for instance, the Atlantic Ocean is named after Atlantis,
Yes.
or rather, the Atlantic Ocean and Atlantis are named after the same thing. Because Atlantis is the island of Atlas, and the
Mm.
Atlantic Ocean is the Sea of Atlas. Because
Yeah.
Atlas was a Greek god that held up the sky. Um, and so if Atlantis was a real place here, it's no longer anymore. So the one story is that it was swallowed up by a cataclysm or whatever. And so I just came up with the idea that where Atlantis is spoken in the world, where this is spoken, it's similar to our world, but not exactly the same. So Atlantis really exists there, where it doesn't exist on our world,
Mm.
and the languages on Earth are similar to ours, but not quite. Like there's no German, there's no Serbian, there's no Japanese, but
It's
there are languages that look similar to it, like Atlans, and so the name Atlans is quite simple. So all these languages are some form of Atlantean. So there was a High Atlantean and a Middle Atlantean, and so Atlans itself is derived from a group of languages in northern Atlantis, which are called the Harbor Atlantean languages. They're called that because they're spoken in the northern harbor cities. And Atlantis itself, its proper name is Coastal Atlantean because
mm.
that's just the name that group of dialects got.
Yeah.
And the Coastal Atlantean is spoken in northeast Atlantis. And there's two other main languages. There's Turhanian, and then there's Tunsk.
Mm.
And Turhanian is spoken in Turhan, and Tunsk is spoken in Tunis. And now Coastal Atlantean is spoken in Haman. The name Atlans comes from the name of the language in Atlans. So
And
I
coastal.
got the idea from the way Afrikaans and Dutch
Yeah.
name languages. So like France, Italians, Afrikaans. I just looked at the arms and I thought, how would the word Atlantean be put into Dutch? And it would probably come out as Atlans, and
Uplands.
that's where the name comes from. So
That's
it's quite
very
natural.
interesting. Yeah. So in this parallel universe, where these old people speak the common languages of today, which were all came from Atlans, can you tell us about which human languages we know today descended from which Atlantean dialects? For example.
Well, in this world, all the languages come from Atlantean. So I had a lot of fun, like making the different dialects look like Earth
Yeah.
languages,
Yeah.
while still being related to this kind of overall Atlantean. So
Which is
we've
awesome.
got High Atlantean, which was spoken back in the day by the Atlantean
It's
Empire.
like the proto
Um,
language.
yes, but the it was a proto language, but it was well documented and was actually spoken by the people. So similar to what we have with Latin, Latin is very well documented in our world, but it's no longer spoken anymore. So
Yes.
similar to High Atlantic, and then there was a war many centuries later, and then everyone decided that they wanted to leave Atlantis, and then the language had changed by then because languages change over time, and then High Atlantean has eventually become Middle Atlantean, and
Yeah.
then um, why Middle Atlantean is important because that was the dialect that most people spoke when they left Atlantis. So most of the languages are descended from some form of Middle Atlantean. So
Hmm.
Harbour Atlantean is a language that was spoken in northern Atlantis, and that's derived from Middle Atlantean. There's the Roman type languages that are descended from a language called Cod Atlantean because it was spoken by the cod fishermen, and there was also Dairy Atlantean, which is looks kind of like the Slavic languages, which are
Hmm.
spoken by the dairy farmers.
That's very interesting. It's an amazing idea and concept. So let's talk about the culture around this phenomena that you created. For example, who are the so-called Avocadians and how do they differ from Atlanteans?
Okay. So, at about the time that I came up with this whole Atlantean thing, I also mixed in a lot of other ideas that I had. I've been spending a lot of time on Omniglot, and uh,
Mm.
we would run into these people every now and then. They really have to tell you their theories.
Yeah, they're always
Because
there.
yes, they're all there. They're ever present. And so I haven't really gotten that involved with the language community before, but once I started getting involved in the language community last year, um, I was learning all these things. Like I started learning about language families, and then whenever someone would mention a language, I'd say, "Oh, what language family is that?" And I'll read up about it, and then I started learning about Indo-European. I started learning about Proto-Indo-European and stuff. And so these people coming in here with their theories, and I'm thinking, why didn't you just do a bit of reading on it? There's so much information out there, especially nowadays. Just go on Wikipedia, type in Serbian or type in French, and it'll give you a whole long list. This comes from Proto-Indo-European. Proto-Indo-European was spoken 6,000 years or so, whatever. And so when I made this whole Atlantean world, what I did was I set up this antagonistic relationship between the Avocadians and the Atlanteans. And so in our world, we got people who say that like no, French and English aren't related. They're two separate languages, and it was all just French was all just made up, and it's not related to Latin at all. And someone just made it up on the spot. And I think someone once said that French was a conlang because it was invented by a
Yes, I
French
have I
writer.
have read that.
Uh,
Yeah,
yes,
I know that too.
yeah, yeah. So some people are saying ridiculous things like that. And so I thought. Um, I want to incorporate that kind of silliness into this world. So what I did is I came up with this group that rejected the current state, exactly the same way that in our world we have people that reject the common wisdom. There's people on earth that reject the common wisdom, and then they were known as the advocates for
Advocates.
linguistic knowledge.
Yeah.
And so what happened is that they wrote this book called the Avocado, and then they published it everywhere, and then they said this is the truth, because at around that time people were starting to learn that like the way all languages connect together, and they said, oh well, the way they speak over there, that's how all the cod fishermen speak, and this is how all the harbor people speak, because everyone already knew that people spoke differently. And then they started to track it scientifically and stuff. And so they said, okay, here are the harbor languages, here are the cod languages, here are the dairy languages. And then these advocates, and eventually they started calling themselves Avocadians, because they're advocating a new way of looking at things.
Yeah.
So they said, learn the truth. You don't want to be a sheep, or you don't want someone to just follow the masses, because they're saying everyone's just following this new train, like just calling it Harvard. And they said, no, it's nonsense. We've got the truth. And so they published the book. The book was it was really well received with some people and not well received by other people. And there were riots in the streets and everything. And so it got so bad that the royal family actually left the capital at the time, and then they moved into the north. And then they moved into where the capital currently is, Hammond. Because previously it was in a city in the south of Atlantis called Honolulu, which is a word from High Atlantean, which means the Atlantis. So Hon in High Atlantean means the. And then what happened is that this book was really popular for a while, but then it calmed down, and everyone started getting on board with this idea of like all languages in the world come from some form of Atlantean. But then these Avocadians stuck around, and they said, no, we've got the truth. and
Okay.
and so they kind of been underground on Earth ever since, and every now and again they publish some new thing, but they're not really taking that seriously. And so I came up with the term Avocadian on Omniglot to refer to these people, and then I then took that word and I incorporated that into my into my conlang, my
Mm.
con world. So for instance, the Avocadian is a word in High Atlantean, and then I imported that into Atlans itself as avocadoa, which means like
Avocado.
a miscreant or a vagabond or someone just causing nonsense, because you can obviously see the semantic shift from
Mhm.
advocate to like miscreant, because these people who are trying to advocate something are causing mischief. And so it had the semantic shift into Atlans.
So, I mean, everybody's heard about Steve the Vagabond. Is
Yes.
he like a distinct person in this mythology of yours, or is he like a allegory of all those Avocadians under one single person? How do you view that character?
Okay, the way it works is that Steve is a name I gave to this person who came on in that fateful night and led me to say Atlantean is the mother of all languages. And then so after I made that statement, and then the next day we were all in the silly mood, so we started saying all these silly
Mm.
things, and then someone suggested I make a group for this, and then we can work on Atlantean languages together. And I thought, okay, that's a good idea. So we set up this group, and then I thought, well, how's this actually going to work? Because if we're going to make this mythological world or this different world, we've got to work some stuff out. So what I did is I thought, well, why would people spread out? Like, if this was a real thing, like, why are the Atlantean languages everywhere? Why do all the languages come from Atlanteans? And then I had this idea of a thing spreading, and I named that the Great Spreading. And I thought,
Mhm.
well, what would cause everyone to leave Atlantis? And then immediately I thought of war, and I thought, okay, so there was some kind of war. And then I thought, well, Hugh would have started the war, and I immediately thought of this character Steve, and I,
Vagabond,
and then
yeah.
and then yeah, and so that basically where I came up with the idea for this character of Steve the Vagabond, because he's obviously a vagabond, he's messing everything up. And then I came up with the idea that there were also a lot of jokes about cheesecake and stuff, um, and so that's also where I got the idea of like the dairy farmers and stuff. So I had the idea, okay, so Steve the Vagabond um, came from one of the dairy colonies where they grow, uh, where they do all the dairy farming,
Yeah.
and then he started killing all the cows, to send the message to the Atlantean Empire, this is not going to stand, we won't stand for your domination anymore. Um, and so I eventually named that the Second Great Cheesecake War, because it's the cheesecake was obviously this really famous dessert that was enjoyed a lot in Atlantis, and so then Steve the Vagabond is this pivotal character in the story because he's the one that actually set everything in motion.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, let's get back to the Atlantean world itself. So, can you
Yes,
tell us more about the Atlantean religion? Because from what we know, there are two like major denominations: those who believe in King Cheesecake, which is also a living king in
yes,
Earth, and those who also
yes,
believe in the mysterious figure called the massive sentient loaf of bread, or as everybody know it, it's Ekmek. So, can
yes,
you
yes.
please tell us about if there are any holy wars going on between those two people of those two denominations, or like every religion? Because obviously, sweet cannot go with salty so well.
Yes,
So,
yes, yes, of course. So what happened is that during the time of the Atlantean Empire, the king was really revered as this big figure, very similar to the pharaohs of the Egyptians.
mm,
And so uh, he, as each king came along, people like, okay, praise the king. He's the one. He's the lifeblood of the Atlantean civilization and Atlantean life. But then, as, as Atlantean civilization goes out, it obviously picks up different elements from here and there. And then there were these other people known as the Ekmites, who had their own religion, and their religion was based around food, and especially bread, because they felt like
It's the giver of
bread,
life.
yes, bread is the giver of life, and it's made in the image of the deity, and so once that religion became more well known, it then got imported to Atlantis itself.
Ah,
And so there's even a city in
Ekmulot.
the yes, there's a city called Ekmulot. I see you've been doing your reading. um,
My own
yes,
research.
yes. So Atlanta looks a bit like a seed. There's this long strip here and a long strip like this, and then there's a little bay between the two arms like this. And Ekmulot is sitting along the coast of that bay. So in the west, or kind of in the middle, but on the west of that piece.
Yes, yeah, I can imagine. So yeah, it's time to teach our viewers some Atlans. So let's start with the numbers, I guess, because for a short video like this, you have to have a small idea of what that language actually sounds like. So
Yes, of course.
let's slowly. Now you should tell us the numbers from 1 to 10, and I will repeat each number after you, just
Okay.
for the viewers to get that general flow of the language. And
Yes, of course. Okay, so 1 to 10.
it's in coastal Atlans, right?
Yes. So we're talking about coastal Atlantic.
Mm.
So it would be ain,
Ain,
sway,
sway,
dre,
dre,
fay,
fay,
just fay. There's no R at the end.
fay,
Fay,
fay.
fay.
Okay.
Yes. Fay, fun,
Fun,
sek,
sek,
sip,
sip,
ach,
ach,
nen,
nen,
zen.
zen. So let's do it
Yes.
again, but faster.
Okay.
En,
Ein, sway, dre, fay, fon,
van,
sek,
zich,
sek,
sik, yeah,
sek, sip, ach,
sip, ach,
nen,
nen,
zen.
zen. Great. So it sounds pretty good. So okay, I have two last questions about Atlans as a project itself.
Yes.
Do you think it will grow? It will grow. It will become viral. If it does, will you are you planning on writing some sort of I don't know, maybe a novel or something about this civilization as a whole and popularizing it like
Yes.
Harry Potter was popularized back in
Yes,
the
I
90s?
think that would be fun. I've got a lot of ideas floating around, but also I also want to continue with the project of building up all these different Atlantean languages. Like I started developing or fiddling around with Dairy Atlantean, and I've got some bits and pieces of Cod Atlantean, and also building up High Atlantean, because it all started with Atlans, and then to work on some of the older languages, I had to do this painstaking reverse engineering that takes a while, but it's worth it when you get something.
Mm. So tell us some more about yourself. I know that you are a IT specialist. You're a programmer,
Yes,
right?
yes.
So what kind of program languages do you know, and do you think you can make some sort of video game which involves around Atlans? Or I mean, I have all
Yes.
these crazy ideas in my head, that pop
That
up
could be
in
fun.
this moment.
Yes, that could be fun. I actually did my master's in computer science, obviously, but specializing in video games. And
Oh, pretty good.
I looked at
Pretty promising.
making a game engine that was specifically suited towards teaching video game programming.
That's amazing. Well, we're totally looking forward for your new projects, and thank you so much for accepting my invitation and to being on this little improvised video. But
No, no problem. It was a lot of fun.
yeah, if, like people already know, it's the first anniversary of Atlan, so we have to spread the word, you know.
Yes.
So, how do you say it? Kavala,
Kabbalah,
right?
yes, thank you. Yes.
Kavala, yeah. Okay, thank you so much. Bye.
Okay, bye bye.
Oops. Yeah, stop broadcasting.